Why you're still thinking about them, if you're still thinking about that person even after everything, even after time has passed, even after you told yourself you were over it. This isn't an accident. And it doesn't mean you're weak. It means something inside you is still trying to make sense of what happened, and until it does, your mind won't let go. The mind doesn't miss people. It misses meaning. Let's clear something up right now. You are not thinking about them because they were perfect. You're not thinking about them because they were the one. You're thinking about them because they meant something to you, and that meaning was never fully resolved. The human mind is not designed to leave stories unfinished. When something ends suddenly, when there's no explanation, when feelings were involved but never fully expressed, the mind loops, it replays moments, conversations, messages, silences, not because you enjoy the pain, but because your brain is searching for clarity. This is why closure hurts more when it's not given. Your heart accepted the ending, but your mind never got the memo. And so it keeps asking questions. What did I do wrong? What if I said something differently? What if I waited longer? What if they come back? But here's the truth most people don't realize. You're not stuck on them. You're stuck on the unanswered story. Emotional attachment is about identity, not love. This might be uncomfortable to hear, but it's important. You didn't just like them. You became someone around them. Maybe you felt more confident, more alive, more understood, more hopeful about the future, or maybe, for the first time, you felt chosen. And when that connection ended, it didn't just feel like losing a person, it felt like losing a version of yourself. That's why moving on feels so hard, because you're not just letting go of them, you're letting go of who you were when you believed in that connection. The late night thoughts aren't about missing their face. They're about missing how you felt in your own skin when they were around, and once you understand this, something powerful happens. You stop blaming yourself for still thinking about them. You stop calling it obsession. You stop calling it weakness. You realize it's grief, and grief deserves patience. Why time alone hasn't healed you. People love to say, just give it time. But time alone doesn't heal anything. Awareness does. You can spend years distracted, busy, smiling, and still think about the same person. Why? Because healing doesn't happen when you avoid pain. It happens when you understand it. If you're still thinking about them, it's because some part of you is still asking, why wasn't I enough? Why did I care more? Why did it feel so real to me? And until you answer those questions honestly, your mind will keep returning to the same person because they represent the moment those questions were born. This isn't about going back. It's about looking inward. The role of hope and why it's so dangerous. Hope is beautiful, but unreturned hope can quietly trap you. Sometimes you're not thinking about them as they were, you're thinking about who they could have become. The potential, the almost, the imagined future. Your mind fills in the gaps with what you wanted them to be, not who they consistently showed you they were. And that's why letting go feels like betrayal, because it feels like giving up on a dream. But here's something you need to hear gently. Letting go of someone who didn't choose you is not giving up. It's coming back to yourself. The nervous system remembers what the heart tries to forget, even when you decide to move on. Your body may not be ready yet. Because emotional attachment lives deeper than thought. It lives in the nervous system. That's why certain songs trigger memories, certain places feel heavy, certain times of night feel lonely. Your body remembers safety, or the illusion of it. So when you judge yourself for still thinking about them, you're fighting your own healing process. Healing isn't linear. Some days you feel free. Some days one memory pulls you back. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're processing. The real question you need to ask, instead of asking, why can't I stop thinking about them? Ask this: what did this connection awaken in me? Was it a desire to be seen? A longing for emotional safety? A need for validation? A reminder that you're capable of deep love? Because once you identify what they awakened, you stop needing them as the source. You realize what you're searching for in them is something you're meant to build within yourself first. A gentle reframe: if you're still thinking about that person, don't shame yourself. You didn't imagine the connection, you felt it. But feelings are not instructions. they're information, and right now your thoughts are telling you this. You are growing. You are shedding an old version of yourself, and your mind is catching up to your heart. This isn't the end of your story. This is the moment before clarity. What this attachment is really teaching you, if you're still thinking about them, it's not because you're meant to go backward. It's because life is trying to move you forward, but there's a lesson you haven't fully claimed yet. And until you do, your heart will keep returning to the same chapter, hoping it will somehow read differently. Every attachment carries a lesson. Nothing meaningful enters your life by accident. Not the joy, not the love, and not the pain. Some people come into your life to stay. Others come to show you something about yourself. The deeper the attachment, the deeper the lesson. You don't obsess over people who didn't touch your inner world. You don't miss people who didn't awaken something inside you. So ask yourself honestly, what did this person awaken? Was it your capacity to love deeply, your vulnerability, your hope, your willingness to believe? Because if they hadn't entered your life, you might never have discovered that part of yourself. And that means, even if it hurt, the connection had a purpose. Not to last forever, but to transform you. The difference between love and emotional hunger, this is where clarity begins. Sometimes what we call love is actually emotional hunger. A hunger to be chosen, prioritized, valued, understood. And when someone temporarily fills that hunger, we attach to them intensely. Not because they're the only one who can love us, but because they were the first to touch a wound we didn't know was open. When they leave, it feels like losing oxygen, but what you're really losing is the external source of validation. That doesn't mean you loved wrong. It means you loved before fully loving yourself. And that awareness isn't shameful, it's powerful. Because once you see the difference, you stop chasing people to fill spaces you're now capable of filling within yourself. Why you were willing to accept less than you deserved, be honest with yourself, gently. You noticed the signs, the inconsistency, the distance, the mixed signals, yet you stayed hopeful. Why? Because part of you believed that if you loved harder, waited longer, understood more, they would eventually show up fully. This wasn't weakness. It was conditioning. You were taught, directly or indirectly, that love requires sacrifice, patience, endurance. But real love does not ask you to abandon yourself. This connection is teaching you something essential. Love should not cost you your self-respect. And once that truth lands, you stop romanticizing emotional unavailability. You stop calling anxiety passion. You stop calling confusion chemistry. You start calling it what it is, a sign to choose yourself. The role of familiar pain, here's a hard truth many people avoid. Sometimes we're drawn to people who recreate familiar emotional patterns, not because it feels good, but because it feels known. If you grew up having to earn attention, you may feel drawn to people who make you work for love. If you grew up being emotionally unseen, you may bond deeply with those who are emotionally distant. This isn't fate, it's pattern recognition, and the lesson here is not self-blame, it's self-awareness. Because once you see the pattern, you gain the power to break it. You stop confusing familiarity with destiny. Why letting go feels like losing a part of yourself when you attach to them. You projected parts of your future onto them. Dreams, plans, possibilities. So when the connection ended, you didn't just lose a person. You lost a future you imagined. And grief for imagined futures is just as real as grief for real ones. That's why people say, I don't miss them. I miss what we could have been. That statement holds wisdom. Because now you can reclaim those dreams without tying them to someone who couldn't meet you fully. The shift from why me to what now. Pain keeps us stuck when we ask the wrong questions. Why wasn't I enough? Why did they change? Why did this happen to me? But healing begins when the question changes to, what is this preparing me for? Because every relationship, especially the painful ones, shapes your emotional standards. It teaches you what you will no longer tolerate, what you need more of, what you deserve consistently, and once you integrate the lesson, the attachment loosens naturally, not because you forced it, but because it no longer fits who you're becoming. Growth often feels like loss. Sometimes healing feels worse before it feels better, because you're not just letting go of a person, you're letting go of an identity, the version of you who waited, who hoped, who tried to prove their worth. And becoming someone new requires grieving who you used to be. But this growth is quiet, subtle. One day you notice you don't check their name as often. You don't replay conversations as much. You don't need answers anymore, not because everything makes sense, but because you do. The lesson completed if you're still thinking about them. This lesson isn't done teaching you yet, but it will. Not through force, not through suppression, but through understanding, and once the lesson settles, the attachment fades, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Gratitude for what you learned, gratitude for who you're becoming. How to let go without forcing. Healing. The quiet truth about letting go, is not an act of strength. It's an act of understanding. If you try to force yourself to forget someone, your mind will hold on tighter. Because healing doesn't happen through resistance. It happens through acceptance. And acceptance doesn't mean approval. It means clarity. Why forcing closure never works. Most people try to heal by doing one of two things: pretending they don't care, convincing themselves the other person was nothing. But your heart knows when you're lying. You can't erase connection by denial. You can't think emotion. Closure doesn't come from the other person. It comes from deciding that you no longer need their explanation to move forward. Not all stories end with answers. Some end with wisdom, and wisdom is enough. Detachment is not coldness, it's self-respect. Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop bleeding for someone who isn't present. It's the moment you realize, I don't need to hate you to release you. You can appreciate what was real without allowing it to control your future. Detachment is choosing peace over familiarity, calm over chaos, consistency over intensity, and that choice changes everything. The daily habits that quiet the attachment. Healing isn't dramatic. It's built quietly, daily. Here's what actually helps. Stop reopening the wound. Rereading messages, checking profiles, replaying memories. This keeps your nervous system stuck in the past. Create emotional safety in your present. Sleep, eat, move your body, breathe slowly. Your body must feel safe before your heart can let go. Redirect your focus gently, not with pressure but with intention. You're not running away from the past, you're walking toward yourself, learning to sit with the empty space. When attachment fades, there's often a quiet emptiness, and this is where most people panic. They rush to fill it with distractions, with another person, with noise, but that empty space isn't loneliness. It's room for clarity, room for standards, room for healthier love. If you sit with it instead of escaping it, you'll notice something surprising. The emptiness doesn't break you. It introduces you to yourself, redefining what love should feel like. This experience has refined you. You now know love should feel. Safe, mutual, grounded, consistent, not anxious, not confusing, not one-sided. This is how you stop repeating the same pattern, by raising your emotional standards quietly, not defensively. The right connection will not trigger your wounds. It will soothe them. When memories appear again, letting go doesn't mean memories disappear forever. They may still visit on quiet nights, in familiar places, but now they don't hurt the same. They pass through like clouds, not storms. You acknowledge them. You don't chase them. You don't push them away. You simply let them move on. This is emotional maturity, choosing yourself fully. At some point, a shift happens. You stop wondering, what are they doing now? And start asking, what do I want to build next? This is the moment you come back to life. Your energy returns, your presence deepens, your future opens. You realize you didn't lose love. You made space for a healthier version of it. If you're still thinking about them, know this: you're not broken. You're not behind. You're not failing at healing. You're transitioning from attachment to awareness, from longing to self-respect, from waiting to choosing, and one day, without effort, they will no longer live in your thoughts. Not because they didn't matter, but because you learned to matter more. What's meant for you will never require you to lose yourself.